I'm excited for our next conversation with Kate Morris, the founder of Adore Beauty. We're running a bit behind schedule, so unfortunately I don't have enough time to list all the accolades that Kate and Adore Beauty have received over the past few years. But what I love about her story is it is a story of a company that's centered from day one around what the customer needs and has built a business around finding an opportunity in the market that's missed by others perhaps because of a lack of customer obsession. So I'm really excited for our conversation with Kate Morris. Please welcome to the stage. Thank you for being here. Welcome, welcome. So we all have the idea in our mind when people talk about a startup founder, and there's the idea that they started up in a garage and they built this company in their garage and built it into this empire. That's literally your story.
Literally in a garage, yes. Which a Melbourne garage in the middle of winter is chilly.
Yeah. Type so faster.
Fingerless gloves.
Oh, okay. That's a good fashion choice.
Yeah. It was classy.
So, this idea, I mentioned, the idea of kind of being customer obsessed from day one. How did you start Adore Beauty, and where did that come into play?
Sure. Look, it was actually, I was working part-time while I was at uni, just to pay the rent, at the clearance counter in a department store. And I really noticed from a lot of the women that I talked to is that they found that whole department store experience really unpleasant. It's very intimidating, and you walk in there and there's these sort of, scary, heavily made up robots trying to upsell you things,
Spray
and
perfume.
And that everybody was feeling, coming out of there feeling like they'd been bullied into buying things that maybe they didn't need or that weren't quite right for them. And I thought, look, it made me sad because I loved beauty, that was kind of my thing, and it, the great thing about it is that it's supposed to make you feel, confident and empowered and a little bit fabulous, but then there's this shopping experience that's making people feel the exact opposite.
It's bizarre. Which
is, it doesn't make any sense. And so I thought, well, look, online shopping was really, that was really new. This is 1999. And I thought, you know what? Somebody's going to do e-commerce for beauty, and I think that'll work better for a heap of people. And I kind of waited for somebody else to do it, and nobody was doing it. And I think in the end, everybody around me just got sick of me talking about it all the time and said, look, well, are you going to do this or what? And I thought, okay. Well, I suppose I could. And so 21 with no money and no business experience. I thought, yes, I'll start a business.
You had a garage, so there you go.
I did have a garage.
That's half the battle right there.
Yes.
So take a step back for a second. So clearance counter.
Yes.
Selling clearance products.
Correct.
I'm not a woman. I don't necessarily know, but I'm assuming that that's not all that your customers were interested in buying, perhaps.
Well, so this is the way that the beauty industry kind of always worked, is that the whole experience is very much controlled by the individual brands. So they all, sort of pay for their space in the department stores, but the whole thing is kind of designed to set up these barriers that stop customers actually comparing products between brands or being able to kind of cherry pick and pick and choose between brands what's right for them. I mean, how would you even know? You walk into a department store and say, hey, I've got really dry skin, what's the best moisturizer? How are you going to figure that out? Even as a sales assistant, I knew I was trained in my own brand and nothing else. So I wasn't even able to tell the customer, hey, look, our products I don't think are right for you, but I think you should head over there. There was nobody on the floor that actually had that knowledge. And so it's very disempowering for a customer to have no information aside from what you can get from a single brand trained person that's standing there behind the counter kind of treating you like a patient or a student, and you have to be given permission to buy their things. It's just, the whole thing is just a bit broken.
Right.
And not, it was all geared around sort of from the brand's perspective, controlling the experience that the customer got and trying to get that customer to, come and sit down at the counter and then be sold the whole thing.
Right.
But from a customer's perspective, well, there's no brand that's has every perfect product for a single customer.
Well, so it's interesting, the story of Adore Beauty kind of follows the rise of the empowered consumer. The
Sure.
idea of having silos or barriers or controlling or overly controlling the customer experience.
That's it.
Doesn't really work. So how have you approached building for the empowered consumer that wants you as a trusted advisor, but also wants to own their part of the journey?
Sure. Look, I mean, so the first actually really kind of revolutionary thing that we did, and it doesn't sound very revolutionary now, but to actually make those products available online so that you could browse them by category, so that rather than browsing by brand, you could actually go, okay, moisturizers, like, groundbreaking. In the prestige beauty industry, that was groundbreaking. Which, is weird to think about. But yes, so from the customer's perspective, now I guess, and look, bear in mind when I started, there was kind of, there's certainly no data layers, there's no smartphones, there's no Facebook, there was no broadband.
Right.
So we've kind of evolved how we solve that problem for the customer over many years. I mean, the question that we're still trying to answer for them is, what product is right for me? And the way that we're approaching that now is by saying, right, well, we actually have 18 years worth of customer data, and we know a whole heap about our customers, from the things that they've bought or the things that they've returned or the things that they've given a 5-star review to, the things they've given a 2-star review to. How can we take all of those things and help to create sort of a completely one-to-one, personalized and curated experience for all of our customers?
So what I think is interesting, and I love how my mind is always expanded in these conversations. Speaking a few minutes ago with Sportsbet, and just kind of the laughable idea of real time and how really impactful that is to their business.
Yeah.
Thinking about beauty and e-commerce, it almost doesn't even make sense in a way to kind of compare the two, because beauty, when it comes to recommending what products might be right, it's not about the typical, hey, people who bought this also might like this, but
right.
You have the whole complexity of, these products have certain attributes that interact with other products that you may care about, and so you've got this multi-dimensional world of data around the consumer, what you know about them, what you know about others, and then how the products that they care about relate to one another.
Well, that's right, and there's also too the aspect of, we actually also have 18 years worth of knowledge about the skin and the hair and these ingredients and which products work well for particular skin conditions or skin types. And so it's not just how can we take customer preferences, but also how can we integrate the things that we know about the products and what works well for what, so that we can actually help to solve a problem for a customer rather than just going, oh, well, other people had these preferences.
Right.
It does actually need to have that kind of expert knowledge in there as well.
You're replicating that one-to-one trusted advisor kind of approach, but you're doing it at scale.
Well, and we're also significantly improving on it, because you're not just talking, I mean, a one-to-one, a face-to-face experience in store, I mean, it's certainly much more touchy-feely, but you're always going to be limited to the actual knowledge of the one person that's standing there in front of you. And I guess what we can do is say, right, well, there's like no one person could possibly know about all of the 13,000 products that we carry, but we have product specialists. We've got someone who knows about all of the skincare. We've got someone, we have makeup artists that know about all of the makeup. We have hairdressers on staff that know about all of the hair care. Let's take all of that and feed that into the experience, and then layer sort of, all those many years of what our customers liked over the top of that, and that's way more powerful than
right.
a sales assistant in front of you can ever be.
So how do you think about this? You're a Tealium customer. You're thinking about this as it relates to how you build your MarTech stack, or how you kind of approach, for lack of a better word, the infrastructure around what you're building for the customer. How do you build for the future, knowing that so much has changed in the last 18 years, so much will continue to change in the years ahead?
Sure.
How are you approaching that?
So we're actually going through a really big infrastructure change, which big but gradual, and part of that is about going, okay, right, well, the way that e-commerce used to always be is very platform dependent, and so you had your e-com platform, and that was kind of supposed to do just about everything for you, and then maybe you might have like an email program off to the side, or and maybe some analytics plugged into it, but you were really reliant on your e-commerce platform. But I think, as probably everybody in this room who's worked in e-commerce would attest to, is that e-commerce platforms, like, they're a bit good at lots of stuff, but not the best at anything. And,
No offense to
and they're
e-commerce
also really hard, they're really hard to upgrade, and it's just, it ends up feeling kind of like this anchor sort of weighing you down. And so the way that we're approaching it now is kind of very much a headless commerce way, where we look at the things that are important across the whole business. So there's, yes, all of our customer data, all of our product data, all of the years of analytics and preferences, and all of the content that we've created too, and how can we put those things at the centre, but then have best of breed tools plugged into them to be able to access them, and then also too, that just gives us a lot more flexibility to be able to swap stuff out. So yeah, come this time next year, we'll, the only thing our e-commerce platform is going to be running is the shopping cart and the checkout, and that's pretty much it.
Interesting. So it's kind of like the abstracting of the data layer, or the integration layer,
Yes.
and then the experience layer can change.
Experience layer can absolutely change, and it will, and so you get whatever is the best of breed for social advertising, or the best of breed for displaying content pages, or for rendering product pages, or for mobile apps, or whatever it is. Yeah. You can you just have a lot more flexibility, because you have all the things that you need, kind of all the ingredients at the core. I think it's like Mark from Sportsbet was talking about, the pipes.
Yeah.
You got the pipes, and then whatever you want to plug into them, they all come off.
They'll follow suit. They'll take the data. So obviously there's an enormous wealth volume of data that's required to build these experiences that you're thinking about for the future. How do you approach your teams? I mean, Mark actually started to hit on the kind of cultural aspect of that, but
Sure.
You're building an organization that is kind of in constant disruption mode, or disruptor mode.
Yeah.
How do you think about how we need to think about being agile or being future ready all the time? It's easier to say here in 90 seconds.
Yeah, no, look, you just got to approach it in the sense, I mean, we kind of still feel like a startup, even though we've been around for 18 years now. And so we kind of approach everything in pilot mode. And I mean, in terms of our team, often the way that we tend to kind of take new things on is to say, right, well, we'll contract this out to begin with, to see if it works, and test it, and then if it does work, okay, great, well, we can bring that in-house now. But I mean, we don't have a team anywhere near the size of Sportsbet. We're really quite lean. Yeah.
I think there's a mandate that if I do fireside chats or we do panels in 2018, we have to talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning and the future of all sorts of things. How do you see that, with whether or not it's machine learning or artificial intelligence, kind of the future of what your customer experience, or customer experience as a whole, might be based on the data that we have available to us today?
Well, it's, as someone earlier said, it's trying to manually make all that data, because it's I mean, there's so much data. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah.
And so to have always, people in charge of things, there's only ever really small bits that you can look at. So I think it makes sense to say, all right, well, can we get more value out of this data by being able to apply, kind of a bigger tool to it? I mean, for us, AI and machine learning really forms the key part of how we look at all of those 18 years of customer data and turn it into something really relevant for them. And what that will end up looking like is, okay, well, if you pitch up in our moisturisers category, where there's 900 odd different moisturisers, that based on what we know about a customer, all of the ways that they've interacted with the website, where did they come from, what keywords did they come in on, what have they scrolled past, what have they looked at, what have they added to their wish list, what filters did they use, take all of those things, and to be able to say, hey, out of these 900 moisturisers, these three we reckon you should get, because these are perfect for you. This other one, I don't think you're going to like that. But these three, if you buy them, we're happy to give you, money back guarantee on any of these, because we're pretty confident.
You've got to push that philosophy, though, down to your leaders. I mean, they have to be empowered to build this, to kind of push and pull and break things. How do you empower them to think that way? Because we've never had a generation before us that has thought this way or wrestled with these challenges necessarily.
No, and you have to give people permission to fail at things or to not get things perfect the first time. And so for that, you're sort of still, you set core company values, which are really important. I mean, those are your guiding lights, do the right thing, like all of those key things that are going to help to guide their decisions. But then you also say to them, hey, I want you to try new things to solve this customer problem. The customer problem, this is what we're all working together on. What ideas have you got? What things would you like to try? And we don't ever measure anybody on, like, did they get it absolutely perfect the first time? Well, it's a pilot.
Right.
You're going to try it, and then you're going to iterate, and then how are we going to measure how well this worked, and how can we then kind of go and improve on it, or does it not work at all and we need to chuck it out and try the next thing? But that's, with any kind of innovative culture,
right?
You have to actually let people fail at stuff.
What I think is funny is you talking about your personal journey and kind of the journey that we're all having in this room around starting in one-to-one conversations that you had at a counter to now replicating that at scale. It's really almost, we're coming full circle in a lot of ways around what should have been that best customer experience from the beginning, but it's a digital engagement now, but we still want to have that same, or we want to have more of that one-to-one connection with somebody or a brand to help guide us. I heard you speak the other day about the idea of, or the mum challenge, or the mum factor to this.
The mum problem.
The mum problem.
Yeah.
What could you?
So the mum problem is something that I see as kind of representative of all of our customers. And the mum problem is when my mum phones me in the middle of the day, and I'll be in the middle of half a dozen things, or I'm trying to get home on time to, get to the kids or whatever, and she'll phone, she'll say, hey, honey, I need a new moisturiser. Which one do you think I should get? And I'm like, Mum, we have, we got a whole website where you can go, like, I've set you up with your discount. You can go and you can order it on the website. And she's like,
you still make her pay.
Sorry?
You still make her pay.
I have to pay. The discounts are good,
fair
enough.
It's
still. And she's like, oh no, but there's too many. You just tell me. I just want you to tell me. And so, okay, right, well, she's not the only one that's going to be having this kind of, choice fatigue. I mean, it's great. We've empowered our customers with so many choices, but then we've also made them go, oh, it's too many. So yes, it's about how can we say, hey, we've provided you all of this choice, but we're also going to hold your hand, and we're going to help bring you through this. And maybe we need to ask you a couple more things before we can give you the perfect thing. And so then it feels empowering and like you've had the choice of the best of everything, but also there's guidance.
Right.
And yeah, we're not just going to kind of dump you in the middle of it and let you swim out.
Which is what we're all, that's what we all want when we're engaging with a brand that we have a relationship with, that we want to continue to grow a relationship. We want them to tell us what we should care about. But at the same time, we don't want to be necessarily creeped out with, why are you showing me this? Or, how much data are you collecting about me?
Yeah.
How do you navigate those worlds of, you need an enormous amount of data to build what you're building and to solve the mum problem.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you're at least honoring what goes into that from the consumer standpoint. You may not understand what all happens in the background.
Yeah. Look, I think, and it's a really fine balance that I think we'll probably actually do quite a lot of split testing or multivariate testing on, as to how much do you explain to the customer why you've recommended this for them. But I think you have to. I think you have to say, look, we're suggesting this moisturiser for you because you've told us you're this age, you've told us you're concerned about this particular thing, you've bought products before that are for dry skin, you've used the vegan filter and this is vegan. But then you've still got to be able to kind of sprinkle a little bit more, magic on top of it. Otherwise it's magic. Just like, filtered browsing, and that's boring.
Right.
so yeah.
It's almost this idea of being a little bit more transparent about what the profile is, what that customer record is that you're building a lot of your programs and your MarTech stack around, you're kind of bringing the consumer into that understanding.
Well, I think you've got to kind of take them on the journey with you. And this was a really basic sales technique that I was always taught on counter is, to reflect back to the customer what they've told you. To say, hey, well, look, actually, you've told me, I can see that your skin is dry. You've told me that you're concerned about pigmentation and these fine lines here. Like, I would never tell anybody, this will help with your fine lines. I mean, goodness, if they're not worried about their fine lines, that's none of my business. That's offensive. But to reflect back to the customer what they've told you and explain to them why you're selecting this particular product, I think we should be replicating that online too. This is why we've selected this for you.
I'm thinking a lot about right now how I'm being retargeted quite a bit, or being targeted by Kiehl's, a brand right now for anti-aging. It's literally all that they're showing me.
That's right. It's rude.
I just want to know now. I haven't told them that yet. Okay, we'll have to explore this after. You have, I think, such a tremendous perspective of starting a company that was truly a customer-centric startup.
Yep.
From day one. Before that was a buzzword that we all roll our eyes at, maybe. This journey that you've been through is, and obviously it's changed probably every year. What do you have to kind of leave us with from an advice standpoint as we think about, the teams that we're building, the tech that we're trying to build? As I mentioned, we're really the first group of people that have wrestled with some of these challenges. And what are some of your learnings that we should be taking away today?
I think the biggest learning is, for me anyway, is that tech is not the goal in and of itself. Your goal should not be, I'm going to create the most, cutting edge tech stack, or I'm going to use my data in the most number of ways possible. The goal is, what is this problem that you're trying to solve for your customer, and is that important to them? And is there value in solving that problem for them? And all of the tech and how you use your data needs to be related back to that original goal. And it's really easy to forget. And I think sometimes the bigger the company, the harder it is to remember that and to stay close to that all the time. And it's really easy to get caught up in, I've bought this expensive new Tealium tool, and how am I, getting the value out of it, and I should be doing more, and I should be doing this, and I should be doing that. It's like, well, but are you using it in a way that adds value to your customer and is solving that problem for them? Are you, everything's a means to an end. And so the data is not important for data's sake. It's only as good as what you can deliver to the customer with it.
Empower your people, listen, focus on the customer.
Absolutely.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Why do we make it so hard?
That's fine. Business is easy. Yeah.
Well, Kate, I love today's conversation. I love that we'll continue this out in some of the networking and on the boat tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. And I think we're really looking forward to continuing the journey with you as it relates to where we provide value to the customer. So thanks so much for the time today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you.
Thanks.